We'll jump right into it.
Sure.
Hey, everyone. Hey, everyone. This is Matt, one half of the Matt Men Movies podcast, and I am joined today with the Tooch, Richard Tucci. How are you doing, sir? It has been a minute.
It has been a minute, but Thank you, sir. It is great to hear from you. It's great to see you in the flesh.
Good to see you. So just to let everyone know, we went to USC together. You did work at the Zemeckis Center, yeah? I feel like
I did. I worked at the front desk of the Zemeckis Center for about 2 years, I think.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I don't know if I ever told you, but like, so I was like on the weekends is kind of when I was doing it, you know? So like I would do Friday nights and then I would come right back after Friday night and do Saturday morning and then I do Sunday nights. But my favorite thing about that was during football season, I'd have to wait for Trojan Vision to get back and they wouldn't get back until like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Oh,
and that was a lot of time for that building just to be closed. So, I'd have some friends come in and we would go and I would turn on the Ron Howard projector. Like I'd set up that whole room and we put on Blu-ray DVDs that we hadn't seen on the big screen. So we'd watch like Commando and RoboCop and stuff. And like sometimes we watch our own movies just because we had the time. And, I was there for another 3 hours, but yeah.
Now that is a good use of power, I'm going to say. I'm also going to say my 2 favorite memories from being and working at the Zemeckis Center. One of them directly involves you, which is specifically Bruce Campbell came to... Yeah.
That was literally the last thing that I did at USC. The last thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Because you were like, I don't think anybody else knew. And you quickly came to the front desk and was like, Tucci, come in here. And like Bruce Campbell came in at the request of the professor and gave like a whole like hour long, maybe hour and a half Q&A.
It was 4 hours.
Holy
Because I was in the booth and I had like all this stuff I had to run. Like, so all the stuff that was queued up, I'd have to, put up there. And he was talking like Bubba Hotep or whatever. I learned more in that 4 hours than 4 years of film school because he went through the whole process, like how to get money, how to do this, how to market it. And I'm just like, it was the most amazing 4 hours. And then got to hang out with him before and like the little break in between. But yeah, he did like it was like an hour and 45 and then like another like 2 hours. So yeah, it was a full day. And that was literally the last thing I did. After that, like my time at USC basically ended.
That is fantastic. Yeah. And like you, I was not in there the full 4 hours. I think I was just in there the second half, but like hearing his whole story about how he worked with Raimi to literally like cold call dentists to raise money for Evil Dead was amazing. And it was so eye-opening. So
my favorite part of that story is how he said that there was an investor on the first movie that still gets a check that they never met because their main investor was out golfing. And his buddy was like, hey, what are you up to? He's like, well, I'm investing in this little horror movie. He's like, oh, can I get in on it? And he's like, sure. They never met the guy. This is going to go down. Like, this is going to get real depressing real fast just because of how things are now. But like, it almost feels like times that kind of stuff can happen kind of gone. So you're a multi-hyphenate,
yes.
What would you say if you had to pick one thing that you do best or do most? What would it be?
Oof.
Or if you transitioned, because I think you've transitioned a bit.
Yeah. So a little backstory about me. I went to USC specifically with the goal of going into producing, preferably creative producing, but also seeing line producing as a path into creative producing, which after 20 years in the industry, I can say that doesn't happen. So, but basically, kind of going into line producing, getting a firm knowledge of budgeting, scheduling, And basically, I was very good at that because I had so much focus and emphasis on that. And then after COVID, due to a variety of life situation stuff, I started transitioning into more creative stuff and writing and directing. And I was applying to like everything in like the last 6 months of COVID, like, hey, let's try for writing this blog. Let's try for directing this. I really found that what I do best after that is actually comedy, because I have a passion for comedy. I have training in both scripted comedy and improv comedy, and I've kind of combined this into this new filmmaking format that I calling the epic. I talk about it bit in my book Threads of Imagination, but basically that was the format that we used to make my feature film Unfriendly Fire, starring Golden Globe nominee Beverly D'Angelo, Oscar nominee Eric Roberts, and original Mad TV cast member Deborah Wilson. And I'm excited to see where that, not only what we've already gotten some interest from distributors, but I'm excited to see not only where that leads for me, so where that format leads as well.
So, okay. First of all, I love the fact that you didn't take your producer hat off there, and like you got your plug in like really well. That was great. Also,
I know how to promote.
Yeah, I know, right? That's actually the one thing where I think, like, for me, that's the thing I'm worst at. Like, I still have this naive belief that, like, you know, the work speaks for itself, and that's not the case, like, at all. And like, I'm terrible at self-promotion, just awful at it, because I wish that was a gear I had. But so okay, a real quick aside, because I just heard this when Beverly D'Angelo was on who was it? She was on the Simpsons podcast, and she was talking about the fact that Finally Bagged Me a Homer, the song from her Lurleen episode, she wrote.
Oh wow.
So yeah, she also gets, you know, royalties for having written the song. So like every time it's on a CD or whatever. And I did not know she wrote that, and that is absolutely incredible, and I love it. But okay.
I will also say that as part of this, one of the joys of working with Beverly was she did have a lot of thoughts about her going into it. She played first woman chairwoman of the Joint Chiefs Staff. So I worked with her very closely prior to and on the day to kind of work on her dialogue. And to her credit, I would say she was not one of those actresses who's like, give me more lines. She was like, this could be simplified. My character would say less. Let's make it less. And I'm like, okay, this is 40 years of entertainment experience that I am not going to ignore. So yeah.
And you know what? Like, maybe it is her background in comedy, but in that same podcast, she mentioned that some of the funniest stuff that ended up in Christmas Vacation was just because she realized the director wasn't paying attention to her, and she was seeing what she could get away with. Like the part where they all freeze and she puts her hand on his crotch. She was like, I'm going to see if I can do this. And like, no one mentioned anything. And she's like, oh, wow, he's really not paying attention to me. But that's kind of awesome that, you know, she would, you know, be that selfless in a situation where it's like, it's not all about her. Did you ask her how she is literally the only human being who has ever worked with Chevy Chase that likes him?
We didn't get that, unfortunately.
Because I mean, I love the fact that there's someone out there who has his back, but like, it's also weird that like there's only one. It's like she's the only one who's ever been like, no, we get along fine.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned, because I used to go to Harmontown, because it was right down the street from me at Meltdown Comics, and he talked about the whole Chevy thing like almost immediately after he got laid off on Community. And I remember him saying to like a small crowd of us afterwards, like, Chevy is a tornado. He's a hurricane. You can't wrangle the hurricane, you know? So
yeah, it seems like most people can't. Like when John Carpenter says like, "Oh, this is the worst thing I've ever done," and like almost had him quit the biz because of it. Okay, so tell me about the movie. How did this come about? Like, what was your process in getting it made?
Sure. So I can't really start immediately with the movie. I got to start with how this whole improvised mockumentary thing came about. Like I said, during the last few months of COVID, I was applying to everything, and there's this wonderful company called Tongle. They're basically a crowdsourced ad agency, and so I submitted and I submitted random stuff. You know, they have a ton of great clients, whether it's NASA, and basically I had an thing up there saying like, "Hey, we're developing our own homegrown content, and because of that homegrown content, we're looking for directors to basically make a Ken Burns style mockumentary about a topic that Ken Burns would never cover." And so I submitted something, and when I submitted, I knew it was going to be primarily improv based. So they required I submit a treatment. My treatment that I submitted was literally a blank page. For whatever reason, they responded to that, and they had me and two other directors. The other two directors were doing, I think, doorstops and like coasters, respectively. And my topic was I was covering a 2007 reality show, or A Shot at Love with Tila Tequila. And so we had a call with the three of us and the Tongle manager, and he was like, "Yeah, if this goes well, we'll probably do another three more." I'm like, "Great, three directors, three additional ones after this. That's fantastic." So I do mine. I have fellow USC alumni Michael Rousselet, who many people might know 5 Second Films. Great comedian. Also, McGrade, who actually worked on the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. He came in as well. Also got to call out my buddy Andrew Racho, who I've known since high school. Brilliant comedian, wonderful guy, incredibly wonderful to work with. We made it. So they release the doorstop one, they release the coasters one, and then they release mine. And mine shoots to over 10,000 views, which is in like the top 10% most watched videos on their channel. And they're like, "Hey, we want you to direct all three of the next ones that we have lined up for this. And by the way, we also want to add a fourth one, which is going to be a sequel to this, covering another reality show." This one was called Floribama Shore from MTV days.
Oh yeah, I've covered Floribama Shore.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so basically 2022, I basically spent the entire year making 4 TV length mockumentaries about everything from reality TV to the professional art world. And then at the end of that, I was like, I know this format so well, and I have it kind of codified to the point where I could do a feature film. And I was like, okay, what do I want to make a feature film about? I don't know how political you get on this podcast. I did listen to the one episode where you talked about meeting Alex Jones.
That one got real political real fast. Yeah.
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 Yeah. But anyway, so thinking back, I've always been very politically motivated. And actually, when I was in high school, my senior year of high school, I actually wrote an op-ed in my high school newspaper. This was 2001. I wrote an op-ed about how I thought there was going to be a second civil war in America in the middle of the 20th century over abortion. And then 2023 came around, and I was like, well, this is something I believe passionately about. I'm going to make it about this. And basically, I conceived the idea of this is going to be a mockumentary covering the Second American Civil War, 20 years after the fact. And I put together a comprehensive outline. The first step that we did was we shot 2 days of production with 8 improvisers who I really know and really trust well. And that went really well. I spent a few months kind of editing that together, pulling from both my documentary and reality TV experience to make something that's really funny and cogent. And then I knew I had a minimum viable product of this rough cut, then we went out for offers to various actors, thanks to my wonderful casting director, Cara Sullivan. And we were able to land Deborah and Beverly and Eric, and we shot their pieces in one day. They didn't have the time or the ability to look at that rough cut beforehand. So a lot of them were like, what the hell is going on in this? What is this again? What? Huh? And but then we did, after that, a few months after that, we did one final day with a wonderful actor named Steph Lehane, who plays kind of the central character, who's the leader of the resistance, named Kit Brighton. And Steph did a wonderful job. We shot a day with them, and finally just kind of put it out there, and we for at 3 film festivals.
That is, first of all, incredible. The fact that you were able to shoot basically a feature film in 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Roger Corman time. Like that's incredible. That's just remarkable. Okay, so what has this is definitely about to get political. So I don't think this is surprising to anyone to say that the political climate in this country is sensitive right now. Everyone seems to be.
I imagine it's sensitive for you as well, living down in Texas as well.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so with the current climate being one where like it seems like no matter what anyone says, like everything goes political. How has the reception to this movie been? Like, have people been cool with it? Have you had some pushback? Like because especially like because you would think, well, the movie world, that's safe. But that's not really the case anymore, especially with your old employer, Paramount.
Yes, I did used to work at Paramount Pictures, and it's not surprising at all that corporate culture got absorbed within the the Fourth Reich. Anyway, but yeah, like honestly, I did have a lot of apprehension because this kind of a film that very clearly focuses on not just the rights of individual, but the rights of choice, the rights of women, the rights of trans and non-binary people, the rights of BIPOC individuals. This clearly very easily fits me into kind of the Fox News villain of the week segment. But I'll be honest, like the reception to it has not been a lot, simply because as you know, the ability now is for everyone can make a film if they want. And
that means
the upside is everyone, and that means everyone can make a film. So quite frankly, we just haven't had that kind of noise to it. We have gotten interest from distributors, but I can also say that there were a couple of distributors that we talked to that dropped out early in the process because they were worried about, blowback. Amazon Prime being one of them.
That's actually one of the things I was going to ask, because you went to festivals with this, correct?
Correct.
Okay, because I had some interesting stuff happen with Blue Moon in festivals. There was one festival that I applied to that I submitted it, and a friend of mine was a judge, and it wasn't one of these like we're getting you in, but it was, she was like, hey, you need to submit your thing because I think it'd be perfect for the festival. Submitted it, and she's in LA 2 hours ahead of me. I got a call from her at 7:30 in the morning the day the fest schedule came out, and I wasn't on it. And so that means she was up at like 5 in the morning. And she called me up and she's like, I don't know what happened. Like I watched your movie. I loved it. And she went into the text chain and with all the judges. And it turned out that none of them watched it. So I know that I've experienced some kind of stuff. Have you had any issues with festivals where it was like, hey, we kind of like this, but too much heat?
So nobody overtly said that.
Well, I mean, that's the key word, right?
Yeah. So my experience with festivals was not necessarily a drawback because of politics or because of race. I know that from the Italian last name and from this general face, a lot of people assume that I'm white. I'm actually multiracial. Part of my family is Middle Eastern. I actually joke around like I'm just brown enough that I get hassled every time I go through the airport. But
Am I allowed to laugh at
also
that?
Absolutely, yeah. But but also the co-writer on the project, a wonderful comedian by the name of Anna Valenzuela. She actually did some punch-ups on the script that I put together in order to attract the celebrities, Eric and Deborah, and did a fantastic job. So putting that out there was also important. As far as politics, the majority of our submissions occurred during 2020, before Trump got reelected, excuse me. Now, whether that was a concern or not, I don't know. But what I do know is that of our targeted list of festivals that we reached out to, we submitted specifically a YouTube link, an unlisted YouTube link, which allowed us to capture a lot of metrics based on how much of it was being watched. And I can tell you from our YouTube metrics, we only got about 25% of the views that we were expecting, and we had celebrity talent, we had a diverse cast. It was topical, but I think there is something going on in the festival world where, yes, you have obviously big festivals doing what they're going to do, but also there's a large number of festivals who are kind of just like you said, people are just ignoring the projects because they're not big enough or they don't fit a certain mold. And I think that's really unfortunate. Yes, exactly. And not speaking about race, but I actually spoke with a festival advisor early on in this process, and I mentioned South by Southwest, and she said, "Don't even bother with South by Southwest. It has gotten so corporate that it just you can't get in unless you're being sponsored by somebody."
Well,
So.
what do you mean? That's where Spielberg is premiering Disclosure Day. That's a tiny little Austin film festival. What are you talking about?
Oh yeah, that changes everything. Oh
wow. Man, yeah, so the YouTube link thing is funny because when I was getting ready to finish up Blue Moon, I had what I figured was a pretty done cut, and I did an unlisted YouTube link, and I sent out maybe 15 links. And it got watched 180 times.
I remember you mentioning this, yeah.
And I'm like, First of all, if each one of those people had bought a DVD, that's a lot of money not in my pocket. Second, that's a good sign. But I think people forget that you usually can check to see if people have watched stuff. I was applying for jobs last year, and there were things that I got rejected from, and I had made specific reels for that job, and they were never viewed. And I was like, okay. This is where things are going to go downhill. Everything seems to be getting so much worse. And let's talk about the news of the day.
Well, before we get into the news of the day, I also want to thank
thank whoever you want to thank, man.
I want to thank Shane Derek Garcia He's the programmer of the Brooklyn Arts Film Festival. And he actually used to work for Ken Burns. And when he saw this, not only was he interested in us having our New York East Coast premiere there, he invited me out for a Q&A. I thought I immediately said yes. It's a fantastic film festival with some real great recognition there. And I traveled to New York by train. That was my mistake, traveling by train. But honestly, it was a great experience. I cannot thank him enough for that. But yeah.
Did you really Amtrak from LA to New York?
I actually Amtrak'd from LA to San Francisco to New York. But yes.
Man. So when Blue Moon was in the first Kevin Smith festival, I found it was I knew I was gonna have to get a rental car, and I found it was cheaper to fly first class to DC and then drive up. And I've never spent any time on the East Coast. I'm very much I grew up in Southern California, so I'm like, okay, I'll do that. I'll fly out and I'll do first class. And first of all, first class is not what first class used to be. Second. My very first time in Manhattan, I drove, and everyone was like, "What?" And I think it's the most freeing experience of my life. There were no rules. It felt like I felt unfettered. It was just the most amazing feeling, and it's like I understand if living there, how that could get really frustrating, but man. I loved it. When I'm at a red light and a cop's yelling at me to go just because he doesn't want to block traffic in 2 minutes. Loved it. Okay, so I want to get your opinion on this Warner Brothers deal, because my thing, Warner Brothers is coming off of a year where they had Sinners. They had the Minecraft movie. They had One Battle After Another. They had F1. They had Superman. And that's not getting into all the horror stuff. They won. They won this year in a way that a studio hasn't really done in maybe the early 2010s when Disney had 9 of the top 10 or whatever. But besides just making all the money, they also had the 2 biggest Oscar contenders, right? Now, to me, in the old days, that means your studio's doing well, what you're doing, you stay the path, and you keep making money. But Zaslav has decided, no, now we're going to sell, and they're selling to looks like they're selling to Paramount, which will consolidate everything. And John Oliver's his contract is up at the end of this season, and so what are your thoughts on all this? Because to me, this is just an unmitigated hellscape, and I need you to say something that's going to make me feel good.
There is I'm going to first start with the things that won't make you feel good.
Thanks, buddy.
Yes, there. So there is no question in my mind that we are currently living in a cyberpunk dystopia that is being led by a cartoon supervillain. Literally, I heard a comedian say this a couple of weeks ago. Not only has he been convicted of 34 felonies, but he lives in a tower with his name on it. So does Sauron. So does Lex Luthor. In fact, this was actually brought up in 2017. When Lex Luthor ran for president and won the presidency, he put all of his investments in the Luthor Corp and LexCorp into a blind trust. And when Trump won the presidency, he didn't even do that. He is more corrupt than a cartoon supervillain. Well,
when you put it
there is no question. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully, and the thing that pisses me off, I'm going to take a shot at the people on the left for a second. Obviously, the people on the far right are doing some incredibly heinous stuff, literally murdering people in the streets, literally grabbing people by masked law enforcement throwing them into a van and then shipping them off to a gulag in El Salvador.
Hey, but
And
some of those 3-year-olds really deserve it.
oh yeah, yeah. And also I'll say this as someone who is of Jewish descent, um, not this is very personal to me, you know. And I even said to somebody at one point, like, you know what, if this is what's happening to America, I am going to use every ounce of my energy to fight back and protest against this, even if it costs me my life, because I
You know,
love America and I am willing to die for my country.
I read the worst statistic the other day. It said we have, I think,
Yeah.
twice as many people in ICE internment camps right now as the Nazis did in 1938. And like that is just
Oof. Oof.
twice as many.
Twice as many. Yeah. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so not a great time. Um, and the fact of the matter is that film and movies and TV can play a role in it, especially now that, as we mentioned earlier, everybody can make a movie, right? So why don't we start? And of course, like the impulse of people, I even have to fight this in myself sometimes. Like, okay, what can get out there? What can get distributed? What kind of, and it's usually low budget horror. Like, what can I do that will make money, get me recognition? And I wanted to make Unfriendly Fire specifically because I care about what can I put out there into the world that even if 100 people see it, that it will inspire them and give them hope for the future. That's why this mockumentary takes place 20 years after the Civil War, to give people hope. Like, hey, we are going to come out of this on the other end, and we are going to have heroes on our side, and we are going to do something that will bring this country back to a state of actual freedom and not using freedom as a bumper sticker. Um, and I think film and TV does have a lot of potential of that, of giving people, not just documenting our current state and documenting the foibles of our administration, of people on both the left and the right, but also giving inspiration to people about what we can do as small pockets and small groups. You know, film and TV takes a lot of time. Cultural impact takes time, but it is something that has a lot of power and a lot of weight when used correctly. And the people on the far right have known this for years. You know, they've been making Christian movies going back to when 16 millimeter film was popular, you know? So we need to stop focus. We on the left, and I consider myself someone on the left, we need to stop focusing on what can we, decry and what heretics can we hunt, and start focusing on what converts we can create and what hope and inspiration can we put out there for people to believe in. So
I like that. You know,
thank you.
for people that think that it's just TV, it's just entertainment. I think they forget how powerful the medium really is. When you remember Crossfire on CNN,
Yes.
Jon Stewart went on once,
Hmm.
and that show was canceled like less than 2 months later. Like it was like I think like 5 or 6 weeks, wasn't it? It was like
Yeah.
almost immediate. He got that show taken off the air just by being funny and having common sense.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's this. It feels like I kind of wish more people were saying things
Hmm.
with their art. There's this fantastic musician named Jesse Wells who does kind of like,
Hmm.
have you seen him? He does like folk music kind of stuff.
I've heard the name, but I haven't listened to a ton of music
It's like
from.
John Fogerty kind of stuff, and it's usually just like him, like on an iPhone with his guitar, like in a field, and it's like the most biting, critical stuff that's also incredibly intelligent and catchy. But
Hmm.
like, I don't know, like it feels like I don't know if the I'm just wondering how to get people to care to the point where they demand more, because in the 60s, Hollywood kept trying to churn out the same kind of big spectacle stuff, and the younger generation, who has now ironically become the cause of all of this, they were the ones advocating for change, and that's when you got, independent cinema, and you got stuff like, Easy Rider and all that, right? And
Yeah.
you had this swing, and I'm wondering if, like, do you think the audience, as it is right now, has that gear in them, or do they just want more Minecraft?
I reject the premise of your question because I think you're posing it as an either or.
Okay.
But
Okay.
but I think there's a way
To have
for
both.
independent, huh?
To have both.
To have both. I think there's a way. I mean, for example, I'm going to throw out my example from earlier about low budget horror. Low budget horror is always something that's in demand in scripted content. At AFM, when I went this past year and almost all other previous years, there's always a demand for independent low budget horror. I think, in my opinion, because the aesthetics of low budget filmmaking overlap really well with low budget horror. But also, people want to see that because it makes them feel right. It can immediately lock in. You can feel if you can make somebody. I had actually on my podcast, The Producers Lounge, or season 3B premiere, we interviewed a guy named Bayan Junum, and he is a very accomplished executive producer. He actually did a series of pieces on QAnon. He did a series most recently on Stars for the most illustrious strip club in Atlanta that actually birthed a lot of Southern hip hop. But he said, like, with your piece, you need to make people who are watching either laugh or cry or go, wow, right? Laugh, cry. And in fact, his production company is named Laugh, Cry, Wow. And if you can make people feel something like that, then you can you can put in the middle of it something that is compelling and pulls on heartstrings. Actually, I'll tell you a story on Unfriendly Fire. I did the script after, like I said, after the 8 improvisers, we actually wrote up a script to go out for offers to celebrities, because you can't go out to Beverly D'Angelo and say, "Hey, want to improv with us for an afternoon?"
Yeah.
But basically,
You could, but it's a quick no.
Exactly. But basically, like, putting that together, and I sent it off to Anna Valenzuela for her rewrites, and she noticed that in the middle of the script, I had put in a segment where basically one of the romantic partners of one of the characters that one of the celebrities would play, was basically ambushed and killed in a rather grueling, terrible way. And she said, "Are you sure you really want to do this? Are you sure you want to put that kind of disaster in the middle of this comedy movie?" And I said to her, "Look, Anna, I can't in good conscience make a comedy about a war and just make it all like haha, goofy puns and fart jokes. I need to actually put something in there that is emotionally like pulls at people's heartstrings." And in fact, even I heard in an interview, Roger Corman even said this. Like, he said, "Yeah, you can do message film, but you gotta put it in the middle of something that is at its core entertaining." Tune in for message, they tune in to. And so I think it's important that we focus on ways that we can make people laugh or cry or get scared, and then within those formats, find something that can be inspirational or tragic or heart-wrenching, that actually makes them feel motivated and affects how they interact with others in the rest of their life. So
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. It's actually one of the reasons I love science fiction, especially older science fiction and stuff like The Twilight Zone, because
yes,
they're parables. There's a message in all of it. I just wish the audience liked hard sci-fi, because hard sci-fi never does well. Like, it has never done well at the box office. They keep trying. Unless you mix it with horror or comedy, like, it ain't working. So, okay, before we wrap up,
But before
yeah.
we real quick on the hard sci-fi, where would you put the 2000s Battlestar Galactica? Would you say that is hard sci-fi or soft sci-fi or?
Um, I think it is a war show with the masking of sci-fi. And I think that's why a lot of people watched it. But it also, it didn't have
Fair.
the viewing of something like Star Trek, The Next Generation. But then again, TV's different because you don't have to leave your house for TV. But like in the box
True.
office, hard sci-fi almost never does well. And everyone seems to think it's like, why did people go see Moon? Why did people go see this? It's like because it's hard science fiction. Like unless you're throwing a talking raccoon in it, like people aren't going to the theater to see it. Like if you did like Project Hail Mary might do well, but and people are kind of upset that the last trailer showed a lot of the was it Rocky or whatever, the rock monster or the rock alien. But like if you don't show that, no one's seeing that movie. Like that's just how we're wired. It's like, can you believe Blade Runner didn't do well? Yeah, I can totally believe Blade Runner didn't do well. Like 2001 really didn't do well when it first came out, especially compared to something like Planet of the Apes. But Planet of the Apes was an adventure film. But anyway, okay. So what are the plans with the film? Do you have anything lined up for distribution? Are you going to do it yourself? Or are you going to go through Film Hub? Like, do you have what are your plans?
Great question. So I did look into Film Hub. Tried a couple of test cases actually that on my end did not work out well. But basically, I will say that we definitely have a distributor lined up at this point. It's just identifying the right deal and next steps. Beyond that, beyond the film, looking at additional projects. I'm currently, if it's okay, I'll give you a little inside baseball.
Yeah.
In terms of what I'm working on. So, I basically am as a showrunner to a reality competition show with a star and a more senior executive producer. That one I can't talk too much about because of NDA. In addition, I'm working right now. I'm kind of casually drafting a sequel to my book. The first one was called Threads of Imagination. You actually buy it on Amazon right now. But I'm also building out additional pieces called Threads of Myth, Threads of the Storyteller's Map, and Threads of Action. Those are going to be part of an overall series on storytelling that can be applied to film, podcasting, however you want to do it. We do have the season 3 finale of the Producers Lounge podcast coming up. It might have already been aired by the time this is posted. And then other projects I'm working on. Number one, what I'm really excited about is my kids show called Exploration Station. And it is essentially Sesame Street set on the moon. And it's focused on kids' education, focusing on like 21st century lessons and values and education, all the things that I've always been passionate about. And we are very fortunate that we have been accepted into Film Independence Fiscal Sponsorship Program. So if anybody would like to actually make a donation to that via the Film Independence donation page, you can do so. And your donation will be tax deductible based on donating to any other nonprofit because of Film Independence, very prestigious nonprofit status. And then the other thing that I'm working on right now is well, actually I can't talk too much about that on second thought, but it's basically a Shakespeare adaptation against a massive scope, and we have one talent attached, and we are looking at attaching other talent. So very excited about that. So,
Dude, that's awesome. That is absolutely incredible. Although I will say the kids show on the moon, you got the Bible. That's all the education you need right there, right?
I'm writing an updated I'm writing an updated Bible where the Earth was created in 11 days instead of 7. So
well, math was
I'm just
funny
saying
back
that
then.
exactly.
I mean, considering there wasn't a standardized calendar until a few hundred years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, dude, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on to the show. I'm sorry it's taken so long. It has been a bonkers like 18 months. So I appreciate it.
Completely
And
understandable.
I cannot wait to see all the stuff you're working on. And thank you.
Thank you, man. It was great having on. I can't speak. It was great being on here. I hope we get to catch up again real soon, man.